Stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
News time is 6 minutes after 7 o'clock, excuse me, here on this Monday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. The Clinton Police Department is hoping to get a jump on purchasing vehicles in its next cycle of purchases. Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers explains they are set to receive 2 new vehicles this spring, but they're almost a year late getting them.
So we do have kind of a rotation schedule of our fleet vehicles, and we've experienced some challenges really kind of coming out of COVID and the years since, getting those vehicles replaced just merely from a manufacturing and an availability standpoint. So, we're actually, as we speak, currently in the process of receiving or doing the transition of our first 2 units, and those were 2016 Ford Police Interceptors. But these are vehicles that we actually ordered back in the early fall of 2022, and it has taken them. These are 2023 models that we are just now, literally as we speak, having those vehicles transitioned over from our 2016s to our 2023s. With that, we purchased these vehicles through Morrow Brothers Ford over in Greenville, Illinois, that holds the Illinois state contract for fleet vehicles in the Ford division. And so we've had some difficulty in getting those newer vehicles because of, production post-COVID, but then also Ford had a strike last fall, and that slowed down production for a period of time. So just merely finding the inventory and getting those vehicles has been a bit of a challenge for us. So,
while the next vehicle purchasing cycle is still a little ways off for the department, Chief Lowers explains they want to get a jump on those vehicle purchases. Last month, the Clinton City Council approved the department to purchase 2 new vehicles. The chief notes that will allow them to purchase those when they become available.
What we do in our rotation system is, we keep those vehicles 4 or 5 years. That seems to be about the life of them. You have to consider that while those vehicles may only have 70 or 80,000 miles on them, those vehicles, 95+% of those miles are in town, 30 to 40 miles an hour, a lot of stopping and going, a lot of running time. They don't get out on the highway and as they say, blow those cobs out of them like a normal vehicle. So while those are maybe 70 or 80,000 miles, doesn't seem like a lot, those can be pretty tough miles on a vehicle just being in town all the time. So anyways, we've got that 4 to 5 year rotation. We ordered this set of vehicles back in 2022. We're just now getting, I think Ford is starting to catch up with their production. And so we're just now getting those Model 23s here in early 24. In dealing with the rep that we deal with through Morrow Brothers and the state contract, I understand that there may be a few leftovers or a few 2024s produced. And so I wanted to get ahead of the game and get that approval from council to go ahead and purchase those, whether they're 2024s or if we're waiting for the 2025s. It's one of those situations that if the vehicles come available, we need to be in a position to go ahead and purchase them at that time. There's a tremendous demand for them.
Mostly gone by the wayside are police riding around in sedan-style vehicles. Now police vehicles are much larger. Chief Lowers says these new vehicles are more equipped to handle all the equipment an officer requires, but they also seem to be minimizing the wear on the bodies of the officers themselves.
Transitioning from the former sedans that we had to the SUVs, larger doors, they sit slightly higher. Not only is that an advantage for being able to see out of, but also it's been a huge benefit to those officers, all the equipment that's in the vehicles, but also all the equipment that are on the officers, their duty belts, their outer vests, all the equipment that they carry on them. You're talking 30 plus pounds of equipment, not having to squat down, I guess, to get into a sedan, getting in and out of the vehicle. Those of us that have been around long enough to have experienced the smaller sedans in the Chevy Impalas and things of that nature are very elated with the mid-size SUVs, the larger doors, not having to get down. They're just, and I think, long term, I think that's helping with officer injury, back issues, things of that nature. You know, these vehicles, compared to even when I started or slightly before, when these vehicles had a light bar and a radio, you know, now we have a computer, we have radar systems, we have video systems, we have chargers for our body camera. You know, there's a tremendous amount of equipment, a tremendous amount of electrical demand in these vehicles. And so, you know, they're a very important tool to us. It's hard to keep them up and running. We typically probably keep them 4 to 5 years. These have been little bit longer, merely because of the production and the availability to get them replaced. Yeah. But you know, we reach a point that while they're very well maintained, you know, it reaches a point where they're not really fiscally feasible for us when it comes to the repairs and things. You know, unfortunately, they're spending a lot of more time in the shop. It's time to get newer vehicles and get them back under warranty.
G Flowers adds they're going to be selling off 2 of its vehicles as they add new ones to the fleet. March is Frozen Food Month, and a University of Illinois nutrition educator has a wealth of information on a variety of food preservation through freezing. Caitlin Mellendorf is a national educator at the University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. It says if you're making any more soups this year, you could preserve those with any extra ingredients by freezing them.
Also, look at freezing extra ingredients that you have. So you open a can of tomato paste and you maybe only use a small portion of that can. Divvy out in little, 1 tablespoon or teaspoon, whatever measurements you like, onto a baking sheet. Stick that baking sheet in the freezer. And then once that is all frozen, you can pop out those little amounts of tomato paste into a freezer bag, and they can stay in your freezer for the next time you want to use them. You can thaw them out at room temperature if you're going to use it pretty quick, or you can maybe put it in the fridge overnight if you are going to use it maybe in 24 hours. So there's lots of options for freezing. And if you've got freezer space, I know mine is packed full just because I really enjoy that. But even I've been freezing rice, like cooked rice lately, which has been kind of a nice thing to have already cooked. It freezes, it's cooked, I cool it down, I put it in little containers. And so when I want cooked rice, I don't want to spend the time cooking it. I can pop it out, I can add a little water, I can, microwave it, or I could cook it like on a stovetop and just keep stirring until it's warmed through. I could talk for a long time about this. There's so much flexibility with your freezer.
Mellendorf explains as we start to transition away from the soup season, you can preserve those for another time by freezing them. She points out you may notice the textures of some of the ingredients of various soups would not be the same, though, once you thaw them.
And then the other side of the coin is prepared products. And so I love doing this just as you did with soup, with extra meals. So if I have extra chili, that's a great food to, pop in the freezer. I've done it with meat pasta sauces. There's really kind of anything you want to try in your freezer is going to be great. Just know that starchy foods will tend to break down in that freezing, and then when you thaw that food out and reheat it. So your chicken noodle soup, you might notice that the noodles are a little bit softer when you pull that soup out of the freezer. Same for if I froze pasta, whether it's in sauce or even just the individual noodles, the freezing process is going to kind of break apart those starches. They may kind of fall apart. Same for potatoes. Those will also kind of just dissolve into the food a little bit. If you're okay with that and you don't mind that it's a little bit softer of a leftover, not a problem.
According to Mellendorf, the other methods of freezing is the preservation of fruits and vegetables. She explains while the canning season is mostly behind us, you can preserve extra meat in the freezer and pull it out later when you need it.
Yeah, so if you have a freezer, this is an excellent way to store extra foods, just like you did with that extra soup. So most ingredients freeze really nicely. So I think about we can freeze fruits and vegetables. So that there's some categories that I want to cover. So for things like fruits and vegetables or meats, like these larger ingredients, we haven't done anything with them. They're not a prepared soup. They're not a prepared ingredient. It's just like on its own. I've got some extra broccoli. I've got some extra lemons. I've got some meat that I don't plan to cook this week. Can I freeze it? And in most cases, yep, you can definitely do that. A lot of folks may be familiar that we want to wrap that food fairly tightly, especially something like meat can get freezer burn where the ice crystals kind of freeze and thaw as the cycle of the freezer freezes and thaws. And so we get these kind of dry patches in the meat. So we're going to want to wrap those tightly. But even something like, fruits and vegetables, we can typically freeze these foods really easily. I do recommend working with some resources from the University of Georgia Extension.
Keep to Regional Radio over the next several weeks as we'll continue to hear from Mellendorf on the variety of freezing food talking points she recently presented with us. In the meantime, for more information on food preservation by freezing, visit extension.illinois.edu/DMP for more information and advice from experts like Mellendorf. News time is 17 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Monday. Plenty more to get to coming your way next on the morning show.
March into Baum Chevrolet Buick and march out with a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. We have a good selection of Silverado trucks to fit your everyday work needs. We have 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s in regular cabs, double cabs, and crew cabs. And if you're looking for good fuel economy, check out our 3-liter diesel and our 1500 Silverados boasting a combined 26 miles per gallon rating. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time is 17 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Monday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. Illinois Farm Bureau and American Farm Bureau the Illinois Farm Bureau and American Farm Bureau continue to push for a permanent farm bill. IFB Executive Director of Governmental Affairs and Commodities Kevin Semlow offered these thoughts.
As we know, last fall, the Congress passed a continuing resolution. A part of that is to extend the farm program, the farm bill, for a complete year up until September 20th. So that is on the table. And unfortunately, with these budget talks and some of the other things, foreign aid and those things, it keeps getting pushed to the side. And we don't want to just get lost in the shuffle and in the focus. So we're going to continue to work with our Illinois congressional delegation. The other states are working with their delegations to say, look, we understand that you're having some problems, but the farm bill is very important, and we don't want to wait to the last minute. So we would like to see a farm bill passed yet this year, preferably before it sunsets. But most likely, knowing Congress, they seem to can't meet any of their deadlines that they even set for themselves. So I would anticipate that there'll be some pressure, probably after the elections, to get this thing jammed through in the last minute like they have done before. It's not a great time to be putting public policy in place, but that's why we're going to continue to go out there and encourage everyone as you see your congressmen as they're back and forth here in the next few weeks. Please encourage them that we need a farm bill, and we need it this year.
Illinois has 5 reps on the House Ag Committee. Democrats Eric Sorensen, Nikki Budzinski, and Jonathan Jackson, along with Republicans Mike Bost and Mary Miller. The state of Illinois faces a nursing shortage, and University of Illinois professor Dr. Robert Bruno is the co-author of a new study that says 34% of current Illinois nurses are considering leaving the profession due to what the study calls unsafe staffing, that is to say, understaffing, and overwork.
And so the problem of understaffing has existed for a while. It pre-exists COVID. Now, what we did with this study was to set a post-COVID baseline that shows the problem not only continues, but it was amplified as a result of the extreme vulnerability that frontline healthcare professionals experience during the height of the pandemic. So you have a situation here where you have a problem that's long-standing that has not been addressed, that was made worse due to a worldwide pandemic.
The study, titled Illinois Nursing in Crisis, was published by the Illinois Economic Policy Institute and is available on the EPI's website. There were plenty of products on display at this week's last week's, I should say, Commodity Classic. RFD Radio's Rita Frazier reported from Houston.
We're here at Commodity Classic 2024. I'm Rita Frazier for the RFD Radio Network. We're here with Corteva. Andrew Luzum is with us. And Andrew, you called yourself a nutrient maximizer. So tell us about what you do.
So I cover our products of N-Serve, Instinct, and Nutricia N. So what we try to do is help not only our retail customers, but our grower customers fully utilize or nutrient maximize their nitrogen products.
In your mind, as you work with growers, particularly in Iowa and Illinois, are you seeing some good things going on in the field?
We are, and it's one of those things we can't afford not to. Nitrogen's come off some really high pricing, and then you look at commodity prices being down. We have to be really efficient with our nitrogen, right, if we're going to stay in business. And so using products like N-Serve and Instinct help us do that, as well as Nutricia N, being a biological nitrogen product. And so, guys are really, really efficient and good with their nitrogen applications.
Interesting that you are working with Purdue University on some trials. Talk a little bit about that research and what you're seeing.
So we worked with Purdue this past year on some field level trials. A lot of it was done with UAN and some different use rates, but one of the ones that stood out the most was a split nitrogen application, which we recommend a lot with our 4Rs, but we also split applied our Instinct with those. It gave us actually the best return. So 80 pounds UAN followed by 80 pounds UAN, and then on top of that with a split up Instinct application of 12 ounces in both of those, making the concept right of stabilizing every pass of nitrogen is not only efficient but profitable as well.
So that holds true for Midwest in general?
Yeah, Midwest in general. It's one of those things that nitrification is a biological process, right? So it happens in all soil types, and it happens as soil temps warm up and we get rainfall, right, is how we lose nitrogen. It really plays true in the total geography I cover.
You mentioned the 4Rs, so timing of that nitrogen application. Talk to that a little bit in 2024.
A lot of applications were made this fall. We had a beautiful fall. Soil conditions were absolutely perfect. So we had a lot of fall nitrogen applied. Since then, we've had a really mild winter. And so a lot of that nitrogen is been at risk. And so as we look at our spring applications, we want to make sure that we're still using a good proven stabilizer like Instinct and N-Serve, because usually it's our spring rains that'll get us. Corn doesn't really need a lot of nitrogen until V8 and after, and so we want to make sure we stabilize it in this time period that corn's not utilizing it. So as we look at spring applications, these guys are starting to make those now, especially in southern Illinois. Soil conditions have been really ideal, but we still are in this warmer pattern, and we have quite a while before we're going to, one, plant corn, but two, it's really going to use that nitrogen thing.
What's your takeaway for us as farmers do get raring to go for this spring 24 season?
I think the biggest takeaway is we've had a really mild winter. So if they did make fall applications, those have gone through some weather now. So make sure as we get into spring, just pay attention that if we're getting a lot of rainfall, where there's potential that we're going to flush some nitrogen in our profiles. And so if they're thinking about additional nitrogen applications, that they're still using a proven stabilizer when they do them.
Andrew Luzum with Corteva. He's a nutrient maximizer from Commodity Classic 2024 for the RFD Radio Network. I'm Rita Frazier.
The Illinois Corn Growers Association had a presence at last week's Commodity Classic, and Frazier was able to catch up with them.
We're here at Commodity Classic 2024. I'm Rita Frazier for the RFD Radio Network with the Illinois Corn Growers and Illinois Corn Marketing Board. John Rosenstill is an Illinois farmer and the current chair of the Illinois Corn Marketing Board. Lots of discussion about trade today, and we'll talk a little bit about the conversation here in Houston.
Yeah, here in Houston, of course, trade is front and center for us, and we want to, particularly now with corn approaching a 3 in front of it, that a third of the crop in the United States gets exported. So trade is so important. Illinois, in particular, we're the number one exporting state in the United States of not only corn, but of ethanol as well, with access to the Mississippi River. We have really good access to be able to trade. Then the other side of that, too, is to try to narrow up that trade gap. That I believe it's about a $3 billion trade gap of agricultural products in the United States that we currently have right now. We have the production, we have the inventories right now, and the best way to move those is through trade.
Mm-hmm. And the sense of a delegate body here today, tell us a little bit about what was decided here for the nation's corn growers.
Yeah, earlier today at Corn Congress, we did adopt a sense of the delegate body, mainly dealing with trade. We support improved market access, including the regulation of tariff and non-tariff barriers, so that U.S. corn growers have many opportunities to increase demand from foreign trading partners. U.S. Grains Council, Illinois Corn Marketing Board works very closely with U.S. Grains Council. They would be the arm to assist with trade. Right now, of course, our number one trading partner with corn is Mexico. Number two is Canada. Very important to trade with Japan as well. So want to strengthen those ties as much as we can with those countries.
When we sat down, we talked about livestock, and for Corn Marketing Board, livestock is key, isn't it?
It is. I've always said that one of the best ways to take corn is to walk it off the farm through a value added, whether that's livestock, take it to a processor to make ethanol or DDGs in the feed products, and then the feed products come back to the farm, get fed to animals. So it's really important that we have when we talk about corn and we talk about corn co-products, we also talk about meat, poultry, and eggs that foreign countries may not have the capacity to produce. We can produce those here and export our corn through meat and other products.
John Rosensteel, Pearl City. For the RFD Radio Network, I'm Rita Frazier.
The Commodity Classic wrapped up over the weekend. The Environmental Protection Agency will soon have an Office of Ag and Rural Affairs, with the EPA administrator making the announcement on Friday. Rod Bain has this report.
Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Michael Reagan used his Friday visit at Commodity Classic in Houston to announce
an important step that will help solidify EPA's relationship in the agriculture sector for the future,
with the establishment of an EPA Office of Agriculture and Rural Affairs,
to expand engagement opportunities beyond any that we've done so far, and to ensure that your voices are heard and that your ideas are understood.
The administrator announced that his senior advisor for Ag, Rod Snyder, will head the new office.
With the establishment of this new office, we will ensure agriculture and rural stakeholders have a continual seat at the table at EPA for many years to come.
Administrator Reagan's announcement coincided with the first ever visit by an incumbent EPA administrator to Commodity Classic, joining Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack for the event. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
News time is 29 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Monday morning. News brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agents in Clinton. We come up